Video games have long been known for hiding some of the best secrets in the weirdest places. Sometimes some lore here, sometimes a totally random thing there. We've had some pretty good ones this year, at least so far. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 best secrets and Easter eggs of the first half of 2023. Starting off with number 10, it's Star Wars Jedi Survivor's Hidden Art class. Jedi Survivor's a pretty straight-laced game most of the time. If you just stick to the story, there's not a lot about it that sticks out, at least in terms of Easter eggs, but for people who want to explore, there is some interesting stuff to discover. My personal favorite isn't actually that hard to find if you know where to look. Near Rambler's Reach, there's a distinct cave that hides a secret. You really have to know exactly where to look, but if you hug the walls, you can find the secret crawl space that just really, it goes on a long time. It keeps going and going and going and going. It takes so long, it kind of feels like the game might have bugged out. But if you just keep at it, you find a secret art class. It's kind of so goofy, it's hard to even describe. It's a Wampa, Star Wars answer to Bigfoot, posing, I don't want to say seductively, so I'm going to say suggestively. It's hard for me to imagine that enticing anyone, but suggesting, sure. Maybe you don't want to go at the suggestion, but suggesting. Surrounding it are 3 battle droids with assholes doing some figure drawing, with all the beauty and finesse of a 6-year-old scribbling on MS Paint. There's nothing else of value here, no rewards, just a really weird little secret Respawn decided to sneak in just for fun. As AAA games get bigger and more designed by committee where everything is carefully scrutinized and made as safe as possible, I'm glad Respawn is out there just throwing in some dumb thing a bored artist decided to throw together in a day. Like, the gaming world could use more Easter eggs like this one. At number 9, in Street Fighter 6, when Shenlong finally reveals himself. In Street Fighter 2, one of the most puzzling victory quotes for English-speaking fans came from Ryu, where he would give this cryptic message: "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance." Right from the start, it had people wondering who this mysterious Shenlong character was. I mean, if you have to beat him to even stand a chance, he must be pretty strong, right? Or something. I don't know. The reality was that the name just came from a mistranslation. You see, back in 1991, nobody knew what a Shoryuken was, so they assumed it was a guy. At this point, we all know it's not a guy. It's probably the most famous move in Street Fighter. Basically, Ryu's just saying he's got a sweet special move, and the English translators really botched it. In 1992, Electronic Gaming Monthly really stoked the fires, too, by revealing how to unlock Shenlong in Street Fighter 2. It was a hoax, published on the April Fool's issue. Not hidden, either. They weren't kind of pretending. Right under the thing, there's an April Fool's contest message, but the edited sprites are pretty convincing, and there are a lot of gullible kids out there, myself included, being a kid, not really caring a whole lot about April Fools, caring much more about Street Fighter. I mean, a lot of people believed it, despite all the evidence it was not real. Now, more than 30 years later, Shenlong finally shows up in Street Fighter 6's story mode. You can find him on top of the construction site at night, pretty much looking like what you would expect. Kind of looks like a lazy palette swap, but that's what the hoax pictures looked like too, so it fits. He is no joke though. He's not the toughest fighter in the game or anything, but he's no joke. At level 90, he's pretty brutal to take on even after finishing the story mode. He has Ryu's moveset, of course, and he's extremely aggressive, so you'll either need a lot of patience or a lot of items to finish him off. At number 8, Final Fantasy XVI's Spoony Bard being back. The newest entry in the seminal Final Fantasy series is filled with callbacks and references to earlier games from the series. From the music, to the enemies, to a lot of the characters, so much about the game is in some way referential to the past, and that's kind of what people have come to expect with Final Fantasy. There are a few direct Easter eggs, though, like the Bard you can meet in this hideaway. He's literally called the Spoony Bard, after the infamous line from Final Fantasy IV where Tella gives a verbal beatdown to the perennial sad sack character Edward. The Bard in Final Fantasy XVI even kind of resembles Edward somewhat.
When lightning struck, his yoke did break, his life his own again.
That's a pretty small one too, so let's sneak in another character reference. If you stop to look at the scarecrows dotting the many fields of the continent of Storm, you might recognize what you see. It's the classic black mage with the pointed hat, blue cloak, and prominent yellow eyes. I've seen a lot of talk about it being Vivi, the black mage from Final Fantasy IX specifically, but I don't know. It kind of just looks like the classic black mage that's appeared in the series going all the way back to the first. That's going way back too. That's 1987. Vivi is not as significant to the series as the black mage going back to 1987. At number 7, ringing the church bell in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Remakes don't get a lot better than Resident Evil 4. It takes about everything good in the original game and amplifies it in some way. That doesn't mean a couple of things weren't left behind that we would all love to see, but still. They did add a cool new secret that wasn't in the original. In both versions of the game, the opening village fight is super tense. You're just starting out, so you're low on resources, and you're still getting used to the controls. And in most games, that would mean slowly easing you into the experience, but Resident Evil 4 has other ideas. They basically throw everything they have at you right at the start. The sequence always ends in the ringing of the church bell, which causes all the villagers to stop what they're doing and just leave. In the original game, you couldn't even see the bell tower from the village, but in the remake, you can just make it out in the distance. So one of those funny ideas people had that they wanted to experiment with, one of those ones that you think, it'd be cool if blank, but they usually don't work. Here, it works. So the idea is, you get into the exact right spot and shoot the bell. It'll ring, and that calls off the attack. It's really only possible, at least as far as I know, by using a sniper rifle, so it's not something you can do until playthrough 2, but it's still a great secret that takes all the venom out of one of the most challenging encounters in the game. At number 6, in the Dead Space remake, the new secret ending. This is another exceptional remake from this year. Maybe not as much of an evolution as Resident Evil 4, but it also didn't need to be. The game did ultimately include a lot of very smart choices that took an already great game and made it even better. But one of the most impressive new additions is the inclusion of an entirely new ending, which can only be triggered by playing the game through a second time, and discovering a bunch of these hidden marker fragments. These can be pretty tricky to find on their own, but once you got them all and you place them in a certain spot, you're locked into the secret ending. Now when you beat the final boss, instead of ending things on a jump scare where it's unclear what Isaac's fate actually is, it's much clearer that Isaac's fully fallen into madness.
It's a surprise, sweetie. But I think you're gonna like it.
And that's a more direct bridge between the end of this game and the start of Dead Space 2. Considering what a great job they did on Dead Space 1, hopefully that means they're going to be able to take a shot at the sequel and give it the same amount of love as the original. And then, wow, wouldn't it be crazy if they were able to make Dead Space 3 more of a Dead Space game? Who knows? Let's all cross our fingers, though. At number 5 is Pizza Tower, All the Secret Rooms. This is a weird indie combination of Wario and Sonic the Hedgehog that works so much better than it might sound. It's super unhinged, and it's got this kind of energy you just don't see in modern games, and it's so good. I can't recommend this game enough. To go along with the old school spirit, the game is filled with secret rooms, all accessed from false walls in the hub area. There's a lot of these, like 7 in total, and they're all filled with weird, unused crap that didn't end up in the main game. There's a lot of strange stuff you can find in these things, from unused level palettes to enemies to at least one genuinely upsetting power-up called the Clown Transformation. Almost ridiculous to even say, but yes, it's real and it is in the game. It's a fully animated clown transformation, but it's not actually in the main game. The only place you can see it is in one of these secret rooms. You don't normally see this much fully built unused stuff, especially stuff intentionally left in the game for players to find, but it's a cool look at the unexplored possibilities that for whatever reason didn't end up in the game. At number 4 is Bayonetta Origins' crazy secret ending. Going from hardcore action to an easygoing adventure game is kind of a hard sell, but if you're willing to give it a shot, Bayonetta Origins is actually pretty solid, and it gives up the goods. It's one of these games that gets better as it goes along, up until the unexpectedly over-the-top climax. The game throws a few surprises at you during those final few hours, but it saves the best for last. After you beat the game, buried in the list of standard unlockables and new difficulty modes and costumes and all that is a new story where you play as Jean. It's hidden in the extras menu. You might assume that the mode is like a reskin version of the regular game, but it's not. It's like a bonus sequel set in the same environment. It has new mechanics though, new enemies, and a final boss. Not long. It only takes about an hour to beat, but there's a lot going on there, and the revelations at the end seem to point to a possible future direction for the franchise. Maybe tying in the bonus ending to the divisive third game might rub some fans the wrong way, but it's a bold choice. It's not the most hidden thing compared to a lot of the other secrets on this list, but it's pretty easy to miss. And it also has way more effort put into it than you'd think just by looking at the name. And number 3 is AEW Fight Forever, the historic explosion. With a name like that, you'd expect the exploding part to be pretty spectacular, but what actually ended up happening, it wasn't. Instead of like a fireball of death like the name implies, it's more like a dry fart. Better than a wet fart, but still. The effects failure is only made worse by the absurdly dramatic events going on inside the ring, though. Basically, it's goofy as hell. Now, with AEW Fight Forever, you might think they'd try and cover up this embarrassing moment in their history. At least it seems like that's the case, but here's what the exploding barbed wire deathmatch looks like in the game. So it seems like the game is just going to sweep that embarrassing explosion on the rug, but you keep playing in the branching story mode, and there's an entire storyline that basically parodies the entire build-up to the match, recreates the historic explosion from Revolution 2021 in its entirety. It's right there. And after you play it, it becomes an unlockable in the in-game store, and now you can see the most pathetic explosion heard around the world whenever you want. And number 2, Octopath Traveler's secret ending and the secret final boss. The premise of Octopath Traveler is fairly unique for an RPG. Instead of having one long linear story, the game is split into 8 smaller stories that you can complete in any order you want, but it all takes place in a giant connected world. Like the first game, there is a secret final ending you can unlock, but it takes some real effort. To access the final scenario, you gotta beat all 8 character stories, and all the shorter crossover stories. Like the first game, it's not different, but unlike the first game, where this final ending is at best tangentially related and has very little story content to it, the secret ending of Octopath 2 is filled with some pretty bizarre, out there reveals that show how everything's pretty connected actually, and then sends you off to fight this absurd final boss. It's the secret final boss that really puts the game in the best category. This guy pulls out all the stops in an epic turn-based battle that can easily run over an hour. And that is after grinding the entire party, because this fight forces you to use everyone at the same time.
This is the answer.
There's an even more ridiculous, super hidden boss hidden in the world as well, but this thing's so hard it forces you to use all the most ridiculously overpowered strategies you get. I mean, the hidden stuff in Octopath Traveler 2 is pretty crazy.
Come on, then.
This isn't ideal.
And at number 1, Slayer's X, the Nightmare Secret, and the Dev Room. So Slayer's X, which is, the full name is Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. It's a bizarre throwback to a bygone area in gaming that was edgy, in your face, and really dumb. Just trying to explain this thing makes my head spin, but it's a joke game built on the premise of the character Zane from Hypnospace Outlaw, where he made a mod of another game, and it's kind of like a crappy Duke Nukem 3D ripoff to the extreme. The whole thing's really intentionally goofy, but some of the funniest parts of the game are hidden away in secrets where the mask comes off, and you get to see behind the curtain into real life. The fictional drama in Zane's head that made him make the game, I guess. Not for real, obviously. Zane is not real. But here, hidden in a crack in the Boise Potato Festival level, and yes, that's what it's actually called, you can find this unfinished area that's filled with complaints from the level designer who got roped into finishing the game, including mentioning how the final boss sucks and that they just gave up at that point. That's not all for this game, though. I gotta mention this bizarre thing hidden in the Cottonwood Mobile Home Park. Once you get on the road, instead of following the signs and going the way the game wants you to, if you go in the opposite direction, you take a few steps in the darkness, and suddenly you get ambushed by some unkillable monster that appears nowhere else in the game. It's basically a creepypasta come to life, and there's literally nothing you can do. It always kills you eventually, and that's that. And a quick bonus for you from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Ogdu's Revenge. It's bad enough you have to deal with the son of Ogdu, but there's actually a secret second fight that's actually worse. The first mini-boss most players encountered in Jedi Fallen Order was this big frog called Ogdu Bogdu, and it was a pain in the ass. This thing was a taunt to people who fear it. You're not just seeing your first death fighting this thing, but your second, third, fourth. It was hard. Beating the son of Ogdu gets you Cal's original poncho from the first game, which is a nice Easter egg on its own, but if you head back to the shop at Rambler's Reach, there's something new to find. You scan this frog guy, and you'll face a new challenge against the father and the son at the same time. One of them is bad enough, but two of them makes it easily one of the hardest fights in the game. The two frogs make Darth Vader look like a chump. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.